The air is thick, humid, and heavy with the scent of earth and green. The jungle seems alive, but there's an underlying silence, a feeling that something's waiting, just out of view. A faint, piercing cry of a child breaks through the stillness. The cry grows louder, filled with panic and despair, echoing through the trees. The sound reverberates in the dense air, as if the jungle itself is holding its breath. A small clearing in the jungle appears, and there, sitting on the ground, is a young girl, her face streaked with dirt, tears in her eyes. She's trembling, vulnerable, wiping away her tears as she sobs quietly. Her cries mix with the sounds of the jungle, the noise becoming one with the wilderness around her. She's lost, alone. She doesn't know where she is or how she got here. All she knows is that she's separated from her family, stranded in the depths of this immense, mysterious jungle. Her sobs are all that can be heard, the jungle holding its breath, waiting. A rustle of leaves breaks the silence, and the camera shifts, revealing shadows moving between the trees. The sound of heavy footsteps grows louder, and the viewer's tension rises. The movement is deliberate, slow, as if whatever is coming doesn't need to rush. A deep, rumbling growl echoes through the jungle, but it doesn't feel threatening. It feels curious. The air feels charged as the camera zooms in, and in the distance, large, hulking figures appear, just beyond the line of trees. Tall, broad, and powerful, gorillas. Their eyes gleam with an unsettling awareness. The child, still sitting in the clearing, doesn't hear them at first, too lost in her own fear. But the gorillas can see her. Their gaze is steady, assessing. They move closer, forming a circle around her, like shadows converging from all directions. The sounds of the jungle fade as the focus tightens on these enormous creatures, their muscular bodies barely making a sound as they move. The girl's sobs stop as she feels the ground shift beneath her, the air becoming heavy with their presence. Her eyes widen as she slowly looks up, her breathing shallow. What she sees causes her to freeze in place. The gorillas stand still, surrounding her, their faces calm and focused. Not a sound, not a movement of aggression, just a protective stillness, as if the jungle itself is holding its breath. The air is thick with tension as the child slowly lifts her gaze, her eyes locking onto the gorillas standing in a perfect circle around her. Her heart races, her chest tightening as she feels the weight of their presence. Every muscle in her body screams to run, but something holds her in place. The gorillas remain motionless, their large, dark eyes never leaving her. One of the larger males steps forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over her small figure. He sniffs the air, his nostrils flaring as he senses her fear. Yet, there's no sign of aggression, no growl, no threatening posture, just calm and stillness. For a long moment, the two remain locked in a silent stare. The jungle feels impossibly quiet now, as if the entire world has paused, waiting for something. The gorilla lowers his head slightly, and his eyes soften, almost as if he's studying the girl, trying to understand her fear. Another female, smaller but just as imposing, crouches down to meet the child's eye level. She extends a hand toward the girl, slowly, deliberately, as if to say, "I mean no harm." The child watches her, fear still present but beginning to fade. There's something in the female's eyes, a softness, a tenderness, that makes her pause. The gorillas aren't acting with the aggression she expected. Instead, they stand there, silent sentinels, watching over her. She reaches out hesitantly, her trembling hand inches from the gorillas. The contact is gentle, just the lightest brush of her fingers against the rough yet surprisingly warm skin of the gorilla's hand. A quiet, unspoken bond forms in the stillness of the jungle, an understanding passing between them. The fear that once gripped her heart begins to loosen, replaced by a strange sense of safety. In that moment, it's as if the jungle itself has become her protector, and the gorillas, once creatures of strength and power, have transformed into something gentler, guiding her away from the terror that once seemed so imminent. The quiet stillness around the child and the gorillas is suddenly broken by the faint sound of voices in the distance. The girl's head snaps up, her eyes wide with surprise. She doesn't recognize the voices, but they sound familiar. Human voices, close, yet still far away. The gorillas, sensing the shift in the air, seem to react at once. Their posture changes, alert, as if they've been waiting for this moment. The protective circle around the child tightens slightly, and their eyes dart toward the direction of the voices. The male gorilla, still closest to the child, stands up, towering over her. His gaze doesn't leave her for a second, as though to ensure that she's safe. The sounds of the approaching rescuers grow louder, and the gorillas begin to move. One by one, they shift, their massive bodies disappearing into the dense foliage with surprising speed and grace. Their movements are deliberate, calculated, like an army retreating into the jungle's depths, leaving no trace. The girl, still in shock, watches them leave. The sense of protection that had wrapped around her only moments before begins to dissipate, but not completely. There's a lingering presence in the air, like the jungle itself is watching over her. She stands up slowly, wiping the last of her tears away, and glances toward the direction of the voices, now much closer. As she takes a step forward, the gorillas have vanished. The clearing is empty, silent once again, as though they were never there. The sound of the rescuers grows louder, and soon the girl spots them, searchers with flashlights calling her name. Their eyes widen in surprise and relief as they spot her standing alone in the clearing, unharmed, but changed. The gorillas, now hidden deep within the jungle, watch from a distance, their eyes glinting in the shadows. They don't move, don't make a sound. They simply observe, as though ensuring she's safe before fading back into the wilderness from which they came. The rescuers reach the clearing and quickly rush to the girl, their faces filled with astonishment and confusion. They call out to her, asking if she's all right, their voices a mix of relief and concern. The girl doesn't speak immediately. She looks back at the jungle, her eyes searching for something, anything. Those massive figures that had surrounded her just moments before. But there's nothing. The gorillas are gone. One of the rescuers kneels in front of her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now," he says softly, though he can't hide the disbelief in his voice. "What happened? Are you okay?" The girl simply nods, still lost in the moment. She doesn't say a word about the gorillas, doesn't try to explain what just occurred. She doesn't need to. In her heart, she knows something incredible happened, something that no one could truly understand. Her connection with the gorillas had been real, more real than anything she could explain. As they lead her out of the jungle, the rescuers keep glancing back, as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. But nothing does. The jungle remains still, its mysteries intact. The girl walks quietly between them, her steps lighter now, no longer weighed down by fear. In the distance, the sound of the jungle begins to fill the air again, the chirps and calls of animals returning to their rhythms. The moment she had shared with the gorillas feels like a dream, one that may never be fully understood. But as she leaves the jungle behind, a part of her knows that she carries with her something profound, something unspoken. The knowledge that sometimes even the wildest places can offer unexpected moments of protection and peace. The rescuers exchange looks, still bewildered by the girl's calmness in the face of such a terrifying situation. They don't know the whole story. They don't need to. All they know is that the girl is safe, and the jungle remains a mystery. As the rescuers lead the girl to safety, questions swirl in the air. What really happened? How had she survived alone in the jungle? Why had the gorillas protected her? The search team is left with more questions than answers, yet there's a quiet understanding among them. They've just witnessed something extraordinary. The girl, walking with her rescuers, doesn't speak of the gorillas. She doesn't need to. She knows what happened in the jungle can't be explained easily, Her heart still beats a little faster, but it's no longer from fear. It's from something else, something unexplainable, but undeniable. Her experience in the jungle, surrounded by the mighty gorillas, has changed her in a way that no words could capture. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, the sounds of the gorillas can still be heard, faint echoes drifting through the trees. Though the moment has passed, the gorillas remain in the shadows, ever watchful, protecting the wild that is their home. It's as if they were always meant to be there, standing guard over the lost, the vulnerable, the innocent. For the rescuers, the day will soon be remembered as one of strange wonder, the inexplicable meeting of human and animal, and the protection that came from a place no one could have predicted. The jungle, with its dangers and its beauty, has its own way of balancing the scales. And sometimes, in the most unexpected moments, nature steps in to offer something greater than just survival. As the girl is brought to the safety of the base camp, she looks back at the jungle one last time. Her eyes are wide with the weight of the experience, but there's peace there too. She knows the jungle, in its vastness and mystery, will always have her back. In her heart, she carries the incredible knowledge that, sometimes, the wild places of the world offer more than just danger. They offer protection. They offer understanding. The world may never fully comprehend what happened in those woods, but for the girl, the truth is simple. The jungle watched over her, and in return, she learned to trust in the unseen forces that protect us all, even when we don't know it. The rescuers look at each other, still trying to make sense of what just happened. The girl, safe in their arms, doesn't seem shaken, only peaceful, as if she's come back from somewhere unknown, but not entirely unfamiliar. They ask her again, softly, what happened in the jungle, but she just smiles faintly, her eyes distant, as if the answer to their questions is something too profound to explain. The searchers, still processing the incredible scene, talk quietly amongst themselves. She was alone, but she's not afraid, one of them says. What could have kept her so calm in there? They shake their heads, the mystery hanging in the air like a thick fog. But the girl doesn't dwell on it. She doesn't speak of the gorillas, of the moment they surrounded her, or of the bond they shared. Instead, she simply walks beside them, her steps sure, as if the jungle had offered her some kind of unspoken wisdom, something that transcends words. And as they head back toward the camp, the rescuers are left wondering, was it simply instinct that led the gorillas to protect her? Or was there something more, something deeper, a connection between human and animal that we can't yet fully understand? The jungle, vast and unknowable, holds its secrets close. But the girl knows, deep down, that she's part of something larger, something ancient and wild. She doesn't need to explain what happened. She just carries it with her, as a quiet, powerful truth. The day will fade into memory, but the unanswered questions remain. And while the searchers may never fully grasp the mystery of the jungle that day, one thing is certain. The bond between humans and the wild is something beyond what we can see. It's something felt, deep in our souls. And sometimes, nature's protectors are not what we expect. They are something more. What happened in that jungle will stay with us forever. The gorillas, the child, the unspoken bond, they all exist in a world of mysteries that we can only begin to understand. Was it instinct? Was it something more? We may never know. But sometimes, in moments like this, we're reminded that the world is full of wonders we can't explain. There are forces in nature, unspoken connections, that remind us of the strength and wisdom the natural world holds. Maybe we don't need all the answers. Maybe the beauty lies in the mystery itself. What we do know is that in the deep, dark jungle, something extraordinary happened. And perhaps, just maybe, the jungle's ancient heart knows things we don't. Have you ever experienced something like this? Or seen nature's mysteries unfold in ways you couldn't explain? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this incredible story, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's so much more to explore in the world around us, and we can't wait to share it with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Stay curious, stay amazed.